Tactics flow from a superior position. This Bobby Fischer quote gets thrown around everywhere whenever you talk about chess strategy. But have you ever wondered, when did Fischer actually say it? Or what led Fischer to use this quote? Well, I'm going to show you the game and the exact move that led to Bobby Fischer's famous quote. I'm also going to reveal the thoughts that Fischer had about this game because he had already shared it in his famous book, My 60 Memorable Games. So get ready to learn about this famous and important chess strategy from the man who literally invented it. Let's get started. Fischer is playing with the white pieces and he opens with e4. With black is playing James Sherwin. He plays the Sicilian with c5. And now Fischer plays knight f3, e6. And instead of going with d4, cd4 and knight d4, which is the main line of the Sicilian, Fischer chooses to play the move d3. And in his book, My 60 Memorable Games, he quotes, "This used to be my favorite." The point is, Fischer wants to play the King's Indian attack, which basically begins with g3, bishop g2, short castle. So black plays knight c6, Fischer goes for his favorite setup, g3, knight f6, bg2, b7, white castles, black castles. We have the King's Indian attack setup on the board. White's strategy in this is to create an attack against the black king. White plays the move knight to d2, developing a knight, and black plays rook b8. Now remember, in King's Indian attack, in this setup, black wants to create counterplay on the queen side, okay? They cannot allow white to just, create play on the king side and do nothing on the queen side. So black also has to create counterplay here, and rook b8 makes a lot of sense from that perspective. Also, the rook gets out of the bishop's range, which is a very good move to make. White plays rook e1, d6, and now Fischer plays c3. The point is to go d4 and take control of the center. Black plays b6, Fischer goes d4, and in this position, according to Fischer, the best move is to go cd4. cd4, point is black gets an open file after this, and this open file could be used by the rooks or the queen to basically create some counterplay on the queen side. Whereas the continuation that happened in the game, black simply played queen c7, doesn't allow black to get a lot of counterplay. After this move, it's really instructive how Fischer takes over the initiative and just doesn't allow black any chance to come back into the game. Can you believe it? It's almost as good as saying black is completely lost. Black never managed to come back into the game. Pause the video and think, what will you play if you were white, if you were Bobby Fischer? Fischer played the move e5. If you play d5, Fischer is going to take d5. And after knight d7, there is simply the move queen e2, protecting the pawn. All of these pieces, they don't really have good squares to go to. Whereas white's pieces there is a lot of space in the white's camp. So white's pieces are going to find it much easier to find good squares. Okay, for example, there is this e4 square that can be used. Then this g5 square, this f4 square can be used by the bishop. This is a slightly better position for white. So that's why in the game, black decides to go knight d5, keeping some tension in the center. And now white plays e into d6, bishop into d6, and Fischer goes knight e4. Unfortunately for black, he cannot save this bishop from being exchanged with the knight. Because if, let's say, black plays bishop e7, there is c4, knight f6, and bishop f4, hitting the queen and rook. Let's say if the queen moves, the rook is going to be lost, and white is up in exchange. So what black decides to do is, black plays the move c4, blocks the center. Fischer says, and I quote, "An unpleasant choice since it releases tension in the center and gives white a free hand to start operations on the king side." That is pretty much self-explanatory what Fischer thinks of this move and what he's going to do. So Fischer plays knight into d6, chops the bishop, and now goes knight g5. Black plays knight c7, and now Fischer plays queen c2. He's starting a kingside attack. How to defend this h7 checkmate? One move is that you could go f5, but it just loses to queen a2. You lose either this or this pawn, so it doesn't work. Another choice is black could go in this position g6, blocking the queen's path to h7. Well, in that case, the knight drops back to e4, hits the queen, and once the queen drops back, there is bishop to h6, hitting the rook. Let's say the rook moves and the queen comes to d2, and in the future this queen can also come to g5 and create a big attack against the black king. Sorry for the arrows. After the move queen c2, black plays knight to g6. Fischer plays the move h4, looking to go h5 and to kick away the knight. So black has to defend it, and black plays knight f6. And in this position, Fischer sacrifices the knight with the move knight h7. And in his famous book, My 60 Memorable Games, Fischer says, and I quote, "Throwing a monkey wrench into black's setup. As usual, tactics flow from a positionally superior game." There you go. This is the exact move, after which we have Fischer's famous quote. White's pieces are on very nice squares, okay? And it's fair to say that before this position, white was, positionally very, very strong. Whereas black's pieces don't really have good squares and they're not really doing much. So this naturally allows white to create tactical opportunities, or, tactics will automatically be there in the position. Knight h7 is one good example of that. If, let's say, the black king captures it, there is a very simple refutation. White simply plays bishop f4 and wins this rook. This knight cannot capture the bishop because there is a pin along this diagonal. So king h7 doesn't work, which means black has to play knight into h7, which is what happens in the game as well. And now Fischer plays the move h5, forcing this knight to run away. Now if the knight goes to e7, there is this bishop f4 once again, hitting the queen and the rook is gonna chop off, which leaves white with an extra exchange. So after h5, black plays the move knight h4, and Fischer gives this move an exclamation mark, saying that this is the best fighting chance for black, because it kind of ruins white's structure here. Bishop f4 was played in the game by Fischer. The queen drops back to d8, and now Fischer decides to capture this knight. You cannot really capture this rook because after this, the knight captures the bishop and attacks your rook. So you have to capture the knight. But then that leads to this nice tactic, bishop b7. And let's say you block the check and you lose the bishop. And in the end, black is left with two minor pieces. So you don't want to play this. Instead, in the game, Fischer plays the move gh4. Now this rook is trapped. Okay, this rook cannot go here because it's just being bombarded by this bishop as well as this bishop. Black decides to make a very interesting move. Black plays rook b7. Maybe some of you would be tempted to take this rook, but that's not the right way to play, even though you gain an exchange. Fischer says after bishop b7, the initiative passes to black despite the material deficit. And that is kind of true, because this bishop is on a very nice diagonal. Black could play queen d5 next, and there could be some serious checkmating threats next to the white king. Instead, you want to keep your initiative and you want to keep going. So after rook b7, white plays the move h6. Okay, just blowing open black's king side here. Black gobbles this pawn on h4, and now white plays h into g7. There is an attack on the rook, so black doesn't have time to take the bishop. Black takes back the pawn, and now white plays rook e4. Very good move. Not only defending the bishop, but also setting up a discovered threat of bishop e5 check and winning the queen. Queen drops back to h5, and now Fischer plays the move rook e3. And he says after this move, and I quote, "Now the rook joins the king hunt and it's murder." Quote end. Black plays f5. He's making sure that after rook h3, the queen has a way to run back all the way to e8, which is what happens in the game as well. Fischer gives bishop e5 check. Black blocks the check with knight f6. Now, what will you play with the white pieces? Okay, you've got your rook, you've got your bishop in the game. What will you do? So remember this very useful rule. Whenever you're attacking, you want to get your best attacking piece in the game. You want your Lionel Messi, you want your Cristiano Ronaldo to be playing in the game. You don't want them benched. So you want to get your strongest attacking piece, which is the queen, in the game. So Fischer plays the move queen to d2. This queen is eyeing up all these beautiful squares, g5 and h6 especially. The black king decides to run before the queen arrives, king f7. The queen arrives anyway, attacking the knight. Black decides to defend it with queen e7. And now Fischer plays the move bishop into f6, queen into f6. Fischer plays the move rook h7 check. The king drops back to e8, and Fischer takes the queen. And he's simply either going to win a queen or he's going to be a rook up. Black just took rook into h7, and after bishop c6 check, black resigned. I hope you enjoyed watching this game. Don't forget to smash the like button if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in another video.